My name is Jerry Taylor. Do you enjoy watching things that fly? I certainly do. Anything from a butterfly to a jumbo jet. I'd like to share with you a small but fun facet of flight. Most people do enjoy watching things that fly, whether that be things of nature or things that are man-made. And often this leads to the desire to build something that flies. Some of the easiest and most effective things that one can construct is a small balsa wood glider that is hand-thrown. Now, these gliders can stay in the air from 12 to 20 seconds, even several minutes if they pass through a column of warm rising air, which is called a thermal. This program is not how to build a glider step by step. There are available plans and instructions to show how this is done. My purpose is to give you some tips on building and flying to help eliminate any frustration or disappointment and to help bring about a more rewarding and fun experience. There are several factors that we'll need to consider. These factors are the plans from which we'll build, the materials, accuracy, balance and trim, and launching techniques. In order for us to begin, we are going to need some plans. These plans can be obtained from modeling magazines that you can find at the newsstand or in hobby stores. Magazines such as Model Aviation and Model Builder. Also, if you see someone that has built a glider, they will have plans as well. And most modelers are very eager to share their plans with another person that is truly interested. In fact, these two planes right here are built from plans that came out of a modeling magazine. You may also draw a plan yourself from a plane that you see. This plane was built from plans that I made looking at another glider and also drawing from some other sources. Sometimes the plans will look like this from a magazine. You can see that the outline, some of the shapes, some of the things will be drawn full size so that you can just cut them out. Others, such as the fuselage, is too long to get on the sheet of paper, so they will give you the dimensions that you can go ahead and draw out on the wood. Information that should be provided on the plans are the thickness of the wood and the different parts, also the shape of those parts and their placement. There will also be on the plans a point that is called the center of gravity, or CG, which gives the plane pitch stability. There will also be the angle of the wings, which is called dihedral. This gives the plane what we call roll stability or lateral stability. Once we have the plans, then we need the materials. When you go to buy the wood at the store, do not be shy about taking the wood out of the bin and taking a look at it. What you want to do is to get as straight a wood as possible, looking down to see if there are any warps in the wood, or as few warps as possible. The straighter the wood, the easier it is going to be to build your plane. Also, if you have a choice of a couple of different pieces of wood, feel them and pick the one that is the lightest. The lighter that you can build the plane, the better its flight is going to be. To put all this together, we're going to need some glue. I've found that the cyanoacrylate glues, or CA for short, are the strongest and the lightest and the fastest setting. These glues come in a couple of different formulas. You'll have one that is a thick formula, which will dry in about 20 to 30 seconds. You'll have one that is a thin formula that dries in about 3 to 6 seconds. Also, there is an accelerator. And this accelerator, when sprayed upon a joint, will instantly set that glue. You may also want, in fact, I recommend getting a substance called debonder. The reason for this is that CA will bond flesh very quickly, and you can use the debonder to soften that glue without damaging your fingers. And this is a reason that I would not at all recommend the CA glues to children under the age of 12. There are some other glues as well that work very nicely. Testor's glue, cement for wood. It sets fairly quickly. Also, what are called alphatic resins, the white glues such as Elmer's and Titebond. Now these type of glues take a lot longer to set and to dry, but they will work. I would not use epoxy glue, even though it's a very strong glue, but it is quite heavy, and we want to build as light as we can. Also, you'll need clay for trimming and balancing. Clay that is non-hardening will work just fine, non-hardening modeling clay. There is no substitute for accuracy. I cannot stress this point enough. A glider will fly much better if it is built accurately, if in cutting the pieces they are cut to the correct shape, and also the parts are in proper alignment. I've found that in cutting the wood, that if I will leave about 1/16 of an inch from the line, from the outline, and then take my sanding block and sand down to that line, that this is much more effective. What happens is that this helps eliminate splitting and chipping of the wood, and allows you to bring your line, or your sanding, right up next to the line. Accuracy in assembly is helped by marking reference lines. You can see that I have marked a center line in the horizontal stabilizer. This line is right in the center. I found the center and marked this line. Then what I did was marked a center line in the fuselage as well as the tail. I put the glue on and then aligned the line with the marks on the fuselage, and this makes sure that everything is in correct alignment. You can see as well that with a marking line, I was able to, on this particular glider, to center the vertical stabilizer as well. This gives you a reference line so that everything is perfectly straight. Once you have the wings built, then what you want to do is mark your lines for your glue, make your reference lines at the center of the fuselage, and then put your glue on and set your wings down. Now It's extremely important that the alignment of the wings and the horizontal stabilizer are exactly the same, that they are level with each other. The easiest way that I have found is to hold while the glue is beginning to set, hold the wings in place and sight down the fuselage with your eye. And what will happen is that as you rotate the fuselage, the end of the horizontal stabilizer and the trailing edge of the wing will seem to meet. And when they meet at the same time, then you are in perfect alignment. If you feel like you need to do it from the back side, you can do that as well. But it is necessary that this edge and this edge, this edge and this edge, when you move it, contact in sight at the same time. Then you can set that aside to dry, or if you're using CA and your alignment is where you want it, then you can give it a shot and it'll set instantly. Another extremely important assembly are the wings. You've got the two wing halves that are all ready, and what you will be doing is joining them and setting in the dihedral. In most plans, the dihedral is given under each wingtip, such as this plan says that the dihedral should be 1 5/8 inches under each wingtip from level. If it were down on the table, that there should be 1 5/8 inches under each wingtip. Well, you can see that this might be kind of difficult to join this. So what we're going to do is we're going to add those two numbers. And 1 5/8 twice comes to 3 1/4 inches. So what we'll do is we'll, with T-pins, secure this piece. And I recommend that you put wax paper down on your building surface so that the glue does not stick to your building surface. And we take something to hold this end up. And with our ruler, we check to see that our measurement is 3 1/4 inches. Okay, now what I'm going to do is use the CA, the thin CA, and before I apply it, once again recheck. As I say, this is a very critical measurement. Too much dihedral and the plane will not soar correctly. Too little dihedral and you'll lose your stability. Now, to speed things up, I'll give it a shot of accelerator. Once again, checking to make sure, and things did move on me a little bit. When the glue started to set, it raised the wing. So this is why you want to continually recheck, check and recheck. Okay. Now we'll remove it from the board. As you can see, it wanted to stick to the wax paper. Now, what I recommend is that you go ahead and run some glue down here. Once again, set it. And also we'll run some glue here. That will make sure that our joint is firm. And our wing is now ready to go with the proper dihedral. Now that we've constructed the entire plane, I'm going to take a little of this paper off. Okay. Now that we've constructed the entire plane, what we're going to do is to balance and trim it. And what I've found to be very helpful in balancing is to take 2 T-pins with some thread and stick at the very center of the fuselage 1 pin, at the end and on the nose another one right in the very center. And now you can see that it looks like this wingtip is a little heavy, so we'll put just a little bit of clay on that wingtip. And that looks real close. And now what we'll do is we'll check for the lateral stability. Now, where we're putting the pins will be where the CG is marked on the plans, and you'll need to put the pins to the side of the glue joint because this glue joint is quite hard. Now you can see that we definitely need some weight on the nose. So we'll take some clay and we'll put it on the nose. And you can form this, because it is modeling clay, you can form this to a very aerodynamic shape. And it looks like we're about right there. You want that fuselage to be level, or it's better to be a little bit nose heavy than tail heavy. So now we have the plane balanced. What we'll do now is to trim. And what you want to do is to find a day that is very calm, no breeze, to trim your plane. Now there are a couple of ways that you can trim. One is with weight. If you want the plane to go down, you add more weight. If you want the plane to rise up, you take weight off. If you want the plane to turn to the right, you would add weight to the right wingtip. If you wanted to go left, to the left wingtip. Also, you can do what is called warping. You can do this either with steam from boiling water, or if you're out in the field, from the warm, moist air from your breath. And what you will do, if you want the plane to go down, you can warp the trailing edge of the horizontal stabilizer very carefully, because this is delicate wood. And you just breathe on it, and that sets that curve. Also, you would do it to the other side. If you wanted the plane to rise up, then you set an up motion on the, or an up position on the horizontal stabilizer. If you wanted it to go to the right, then you would put in a little bit of right on the vertical stabilizer. Left, then you'd put a little bit of left on the vertical stabilizer. Now, when we go to establish the proper glide, the correct glide, what you want to do is to, hopefully there'll be no wind at all. But if there is just a slight breeze, you'll want to head the glider into the breeze. Pick a point on the ground about 40 to 50 feet in front of you, and then give it a gentle toss. If the glider is in trim, it will glide very gently in a straight line to that point. If it wants to dive down, it means that there's too much weight on the nose, and you need to take that weight or reduce that weight until you get that steady glide. If it balloons up, and stalls and dives to the ground, then you need to add more weight until you get that firm, steady glide. Once we've established that correct glide, if you are right-handed, what you want to do is to have the glider make a shallow left turn. If you are left-handed, you'll want the glider to make a shallow right turn. That has to do with the flight and the launching of the glider. Now let's move into actually launching the techniques for launching the glider. The proper way to hold the glider is to take your index finger and put it behind the leading edge. For the right-handed thrower, it would be on the right wing. On the left-handed thrower, it would be on the left wing. And you'd hold the fuselage then with your thumb and your middle finger. Determine which way the wind is blowing. If the wind is, and we'll say that the wind is blowing directly toward me, what you want to do is turn your body sideways to the wind so that when you throw the glider, you are throwing it directly into the wind. Give the wings about a 45 to 60 degree tilt away from you. The fuselage should be tilted up about 20 to 30 degrees. And then you give it a toss into the wind. What will happen is that the glider, if it is thrown properly and if it is trimmed properly, will rise up into the air. It will then start a right-hand turn. It will level out and then start making a left-hand turn and continue to make large left-hand circles. For the left-hand thrower, it would be just the opposite, to where you would turn, you would throw the plane, it would go up and start make a left-hand turn, and then level off and make a start making right-hand circles. If when you throw the plane, it rises up too steeply, stalls and falls to the ground, what you need to do is to tilt the wings more than you did on your previous throw and bring the angle of the fuselage down a bit. And this should allow the glider to come up, to make a turn, and to level out gently, and then to again start its circle downward. This is particularly prevalent in a stiffer wind. You will not need to throw at quite a steep angle because the wind will help in the lift of the glider. Now, let us go to the field so that you can actually see the trimming and launching techniques and also see the glider actually fly. While we were building the glider, we balanced it as well as we could in the shop. So now it's time to field balance. And what we'll do is, today isn't quite as calm as I would like it to be. There is a slight breeze, but we'll still go ahead and trim it out as best as we can. What we want to do is establish a correct glide path. I'm going to toss the glider out about 30 to 40 feet in front, and it should make, if it's balanced out right, it should make a nice gentle glide to that spot. Okay, what happened was that the nose wanted to balloon up, and then it stalled and came down. So what we're going to do is add a little bit of weight to the nose, and try it again. Now, you can see that that was much better. That plane was wanting to fly. We're probably within the range. Let's give it another toss. All right, we'll give it another toss to see if we're still right. Looks like it's still just a hair nose heavy. So we're going to put a little bit more on the nose. Okay, now we're going to give it another toss. What we could see there is that I put a little bit too much weight on, and it wanted to go down sooner than it should. So we'll take a little bit of weight that I put on, we'll take it back off. That's what's nice about using the clay for your initial, particularly for your initial balancing. After you do have it balanced, if you want to go ahead and replace the clay with the equal amount of lead to kind of streamline the nose, you can certainly do that. Let's give it another toss now. Again, that looked pretty good. It may be just slightly nose heavy, so I'm going to take just a wee bit more off. We'll give it one more test glide, and then we'll fly it. That was the pilot, not the plane. I didn't make my throw very good, and that happens. That's why it's good to take 2 or 3 throws to make sure that it's not the throw and that that you get consistent flights. That was pretty good. Still not best, but good enough to give me an idea that the plane seems to be pretty well in trim and in balance. As we've been making the tosses, you could see that the plane wanted to turn a little bit to the left, which is okay. I am right-handed, so I want this plane to make a slight left-hand curve when I'm getting the test glide. Because when it's pitched up, what will happen, as I demonstrated before, is that the plane, holding it in the correct position behind the wing, I will throw it, and the plane will rise up into the air, gain altitude, make a right-hand turn, level off, and start making slow left-hand turns. That's the pattern that we would like to have. So now, let's give that a try. Remember that the wings are tilted like this, and the fuselage is tilted about like this, and you throw it directly into the wind. Now, according to the different planes that you build, and each plane is, even if you build the same kind, slightly different, you may have to adjust the tilt and the angle that you throw it at. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but you have to kind of get a feel for the plane. But this is a general approach and a general rule that will allow you to get the plane in the air, and then you can make adjustments as you begin to fly it. This will give you some idea as to how the glider should look when it is properly trimmed and balanced. Now, let's talk about coating the glider and decorating it. If you're going to fly your glider over wet grass, such as after a rain or in the morning when there's dew still on the grass, or if it's in the winter and it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day and you just have to get out and fly, but there's snow on the ground, there's a chance that the glider will become wet. You'll want to put a coating on it. When balsa wood gets wet, it will warp, and that warpage will destroy the flight characteristics that you've built into your glider. There are several different substances that you can use to coat your plane with. One is to just go to the hardware store and pick up some polyurethane varnish. Also, from the hobby store, you can pick up what's called model airplane dope, and that will also coat your plane. What you'll want to do is to put something, a protective covering on your finger, such as a sandwich bag or some saran wrap or a vinyl glove of some kind of protection. And you dip your finger, just the very tip of your finger, into the liquid. And what you will do is to start rubbing that liquid in. And before it dries, you take a rag and wipe it off. And then you dip again and wipe on, and then wipe it off. What you want to do is to just put a very thin coat of protective covering on your wing. If you put it all on there and let it dry, it will become too heavy. So you do not let it build up, but put it on, wipe it off, so that there is just a very thin film, and it will not change the weight of the glider very much. Also, you want to cover all the surfaces with that, both top and bottom. You may also want to decorate or put some kind of markings on the glider. To do this, you can use a felt tip permanent marker. And you draw whatever graphics you want on your plane. And then what I've found with this is that if you do it before you put your polyurethane coating or your dope coating on, then it may have a tendency to want to smear that cover a little bit. So that color a little bit. So you're going to have to be aware of that. You can also apply it over the coating. You will not want to use modeling airplane paints, such as enamel paints or latex paints, because they are way too heavy, and you will cause the glider to be too heavy. One of the keys in having these gliders fly as long as they do is keeping the weight as light as possible. Thank you for allowing me to share these ideas with you, and may you have many hours of fun in the sky.